All right, hi, can everyone hear me? Thumbs up, yes? Okay, awesome. I'm glad you guys are all here. So for today, what you'll need is a piece of paper, any type of paper, and either pen or pencil, markers, whatever you feel comfortable drawing with. Eraser if you have one, and that's pretty much it. So we'll be starting shortly. Okay, so I think we're gonna get started. I'm sure some more folks will filter in. First of all, just thanks for coming to this workshop. I want to thank you to Believer Mag and also the Black Mountain Institute for having me. My name is Whit Taylor. I'm a cartoonist, I'm an editor, and I write about comics as well. And so I'll be here with you for the next hour, and this it's called Thinking Through Comics. So there's kind of two different meanings to that. But before I get started, I just want to let you know that due to the whole storm, my power's out. So I'm actually at my parents' house right now. So I wanted to show you some of my studio stuff, but that is not available. Instead, I'm in my childhood home. And when I started making diary comics about 10 to 12 years ago, some of my earliest comics were about sitting in this very attic with my friends. So it's like coming full circle, sort of, which is fun. All right. So thinking through comics. So when I was thinking about doing a diary comics workshop, I thought about this title because it has two meanings. So the first meaning is how to plan a comic, how to plan a diary comic, a journal comic. And the second is using comics as a cognitive tool to think through things. And I often use comics as a way to, not only process emotions, but also think through ideas. And I think that it's the perfect medium for that. So what I'm going to be doing today is giving you some questions and thoughts, things that I generally think about when I'm planning a comic. It's a long list of questions, so you'll be able to look back on the site and refer to them whenever you want to do further comics work. You don't have to keep them all in your head. And then what we'll be doing is a short exercise. We'll be doing a 4-panel comic together. I'll be walking you through each step. We'll be stopping for each panel, and then towards the end we'll have some time so we can share our comics, and I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone is doing. So with that, I guess I will get started. So I'm just gonna share my screen. Just give me a second. All right. All right, awesome. So thinking through comics. First thing is, why make a diary comic? This is not all encompassing, but this is just some ideas that I had. So the first thing is to reflect or think through something, hence thinking through comics. To process emotions. Sometimes if I'm just kind of unsure of how I'm feeling, working through something on paper or on my iPad is a great way to kind of figure out things. Another is to communicate and connect with others. I mean, one of the reasons why I came into doing autobio comics is because I felt like it connected me to the person it connected me to a variety of people from all over the world, all different walks of life. And I think it's like perfect now that we have things like Instagram where we can really get a little peek inside of people's lives, and it's pretty accessible. Another thing is to distill or get to the essence of something. I think comics in general is a good comic does that. It gets to the essence of something using the brief space that it has. And that's always like the challenge and the fun part of comics is figuring out how to do that. And I also do, nonfiction comics journalism sort of stuff. So when I'm doing nonfiction work too, that's really another goal for me. Another thing is to document an experience. That's pretty obvious. Another thing is to extrapolate or riff. So to project, to play with magical realism, things like that. I do that in my comics sometimes. One cartoonist that comes to mind is Gabrielle Bell. I feel like she does a really good job of kind of imagining alternate scenarios and kind of playing around with like the actual realities of her life versus like what's in her head. Another thing is to problem solve and then to play. Sometimes it's just for fun. Sometimes I literally just want to tell a joke, and that is the only reason I make a comic, so I can tell that joke. All right. Let's see if I can get to this one. Okay. So these are some questions that I asked myself when I'm in the process of preparing a comic. It's not like I run through each one and have to write out the answer, but they're kind of floating around in my head when I'm planning. And for the purposes of this, I'm just going to be talking about if I were to do, let's say, a comic for Instagram. These are the questions that come to mind for this, as well as they'll come to mind if I'm doing another type of autobio comic. So let me just go through them. The first is, why make this comic? I usually have to want to make something to, like, I need to have like some sort of drive in order to pursue making a comic. So sometimes I don't really know why at the time, and part of the process is just figuring that out through making the comic. So if you look back at the questions I listed before, those are some of the reasons. Another one is, who is my audience? So who do I plan on reading this comic? I could just be making it for myself. Nobody has to ever see it. It could just go in literally in my diary. I could be making it for a group of friends. It could have a bunch of inside jokes and not meant for public consumption. It could be for something like Instagram. So that also dictates, the details that I include, issues around privacy and making sure that I respect other people if I decide to include them. Ideally, if I do that, I'd want to check in with those people before. Another thing is, where will it be published? So, doing it on Instagram, like if I'm just publishing it on my own account, like I have a lot more freedom, but I'm also restricted to those 10 boxes, which will dictate my storytelling and how the structure is and where the different beats are in the story. But if it's for like a website, it's different. If it's going to be published in print, that also affects, the format and layout and all of that, which leads to, are there any formal guidelines or considerations that I need to know? So that is something that I look at as well. And then the last one is, how autobio is it? I never think that autobio is straight facts, because we're all kind of, we all have biases. We all are driven by certain cognitive distortions. We all have our own versions of how things go. And not only is that a reality, but also when you want to create a narrative or an autobio, sometimes you have to like craft it in a way that leaves certain things out or enhances certain things or puts things out of order slightly. And I think that a lot of autobio cartoonists do that. All right. So more questions. Again, like you don't have to like remember all these. They'll be available after. I think they're just helpful to have when you're planning a comic. So these are questions I kind of go over while I'm actually making the comic. The first thing is it going to be structured chronologically, or is it more thematic? So, some diary comics are like, today I did this, and then I did this, and then I did that, and then I did that, and that's the end of my day. And that's like perfectly cool. But you can also do a diary comic around a specific thing. Like a few months ago, I was pregnant, and I decided I was going to do different ones around health issues around pregnancy. So I was like, I'm going to do one about genetic testing. I'm going to do one about, I don't know, a variety of issues. But I kind of like used a central theme and then built from that, and then took different like parts of my life and kind of fit them into there. I don't know if that makes sense, but like it doesn't have to just be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in order. You can kind of fool around with it. So how can I show more and tell less? This is like a question you ask in any sort of comic making. It is a combination of words and pictures, and it's a relationship between the two. So ideally, how can you have a brevity of words that are impactful, and also use utilize the visuals in an effective way. So if I can find ways to make the text shorter and then take some of the details that I would have wanted to include and then show them either in the text, I can have it in the dialogue. Sometimes I put little like arrows with like bits of information. If I can show it in something that they're wearing in the background, things like that, so that I can actually cut down on the text, because nobody really wants to read tons of text in a slide. Or in a panel. Where are the story beats, and is it well paced? Pacing is super important in comics. I feel like it's one of those things that gets overlooked a lot. I think it's what separates like an okay comic from a great comic, is like, where are the story points, where are the beats, like how does it flow? And that is often determined by like, again, like how much space do you have for a diary comic? If you're doing something on Instagram with and you have 10 panels, like where is there going to be like kind of a climax? Are you going to have a joke here? How are you going to introduce things? So yeah, another thing is the storytelling rhythm. How does it sound to you? How do your words sound to you? How do the pictures flow? How does it sound? Is there a lyrical quality to it? I mean, everybody has different styles, but like when I'm making a comic, it has to, like, when I'm reading it in my head, it has to sound right. It has to, like, I don't know. That's important to me. Another thing is, does it have a mood? So how does it make you feel like when you're reading it? How does it make you feel after you're reading it? Are you trying to portray, are you trying to give off a specific emotion? Is it something that makes you feel kind of like wistful after, or sad, or is it something that you're like, that's absurd and ridiculous? I think those are things to consider. Another thing is, how can I use visual shorthand? So how can you, and this is something I feel like is a lifelong process too with cartooning, is like figuring out how to draw people or yourself, how to draw, backgrounds, things like that in a way that is both efficient and also it kind of gives off what you're hoping to give. And that can be changed depending on what you're doing. You can do a project where things are way more detailed, or you can, like for me, my Instagram comics are super crude because like generally I don't have a lot of time, especially right now with like a baby. Like I'm like doing it when I can do it. So it's just like, pretty haphazard, but like it's also kind of what I want to do. So, but if I was doing like another project that required more detail, that would be a different sort of thing. And then like, how can I end the story? Not every story has to have like a tight ending or like a point. Sometimes things just end and that's how it is, because that's often how life is. But sometimes it's fun to end with a joke, or I don't know, maybe an insight, something like that. But it's also something to think about when you're looking at the amount of space you have. So figuring out kind of ahead of time, like, how do I get to this end point? And that requires also editing yourself. You're like with Autobio, I feel like editing is the most important thing. What can I take out of my actual lived experience, and what do I need to show to communicate an idea, or communicate an experience, a mood, etc. So I hope that all makes sense. All right, so now we're actually gonna get to this little exercise. We're gonna do a 4-panel comic, and we're gonna walk through each panel, but we're gonna start with the first one. So for each panel, let's take about 5 to 7 minutes. And again, this is just more of a draft. Like if you wanna finish this afterwards and expand on it or whatever, like nobody's judging anything. We're just like, drawing and having fun. And usually like when I make a comic, there's drafts first. And sometimes it's just a bunch of like, usually I'll brainstorm, sometimes scribble a bunch of words and pictures and like try to make sense of something. Then I'll write something out, then I'll draw it really roughly. There's no one specific way to make comics. And I think once you realize that and you find the way that works for you cognitively, works for your brain, makes you feel good, like all of that, like you go with it. And then you continue that process continues to evolve as you continue to make comics. It's like, for me, making comics is like a relationship that like I've committed to that evolves over time. All right, so first one is to explain an experience that you had this week. I'll just read through all of them. The second one is, how did that experience make you feel? The third one is, how did you respond to that feeling? And then for what insights, takeaways, or thoughts resulted. So I'll be drawing along with you, and I'll show you once we stop like what I have, and then we'll go to the next one. So it doesn't have to be like a really important experience. I was trying to figure out before like what I wanted to write about, and so I decided that I was actually looking at the poster for the workshop, and there's a seltzer can. So I was like, I'm going to make a comic about the fact that I went through a 12-pack of seltzer in one day this week and how that was kind of disturbing to me. So let's see what time it is. It's about 7:18. So let's do that first panel. It doesn't have to have borders. It can have borders. If you want to draw a square, you can. If you don't have to. Just, take your whatever type of piece of paper you have. I'm going to be doing it on, this is my iPad, and I'm just doing it because it's what I have with me right now, and it's what I've been doing my Instagram comics on. But my first love has always been pen and paper, so I definitely encourage you to start with that. And I'll show you before we get started just some of the pens that I tend to use. I use these zebra pens. There we go. I get them off of jetpens.com. They're pretty cheap and they last pretty long. And then I have these like, this is a blue mechanical pencil, regular blue pencil. But what I use generally changes, but I do like working with pens and markers a lot. So, all right, so 7:19, let's go to about 7:25 and we'll see how we go from there. First one is explain an experience you had this week. All right, so about another minute or so. All right, so you can keep working. I'll just show you what I have. So explain an experience that you had this week. Let's see if I can leave. Can you see me? Can you see this? I'm not sure if you can see this. Hold on. Okay. So this might be a little hard to see, and I'm sure I'll post it afterwards, but it says, a few days ago, my husband and I went through a 12 pack of seltzer in one day. And he has seltzer here, and it says, wow. And I say, and yet I still want more. Let me see if I can, could you see that? Let me just show you one more time. It's kind of hard with the glare, but there we go. Cool. And usually also when I'm using the iPad, I use the graph paper setting. It's called drawing guide. So if you're drawing on paper, it's really helpful to use graph paper too. It's like having, a built-in ruler. Great for when you're just doing, practicing or doing thumbnails or things like that. All right, so let me share this again. All right, cool. So the second panel is going to be, how did it make you feel? So it's 7:27-ish. Give you 5 more minutes. So I will remind you when you have about a minute left. All right, let's get started. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that's 7:32. So I'll remind you though. It's actually 7:32 right now, but just take another minute. Okay. I guess I'll show you mine. So one sec. Just pull this up. Okay, so it's about the feeling that you had as a result of that. Um, Again, the glare is kind of wonky, and it's backwards. But so it says, I felt pretty ashamed of the extent of my seltzer habit until I chatted with some peers. And so this is a Slack channel conversation. And someone's like, yeah, same with us recently. Another person's like, people are losing their minds due to the SodaStream CO2 shortage. And then someone else says, what is your favorite brand? Don't say La Croix or LaCroix. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but it's not my favorite brand, by the way. So that is mine. And again, like you can continue working once like people start sharing theirs. If you're not done with a specific panel, you can just like keep working on it. Let me pull up the screen again. All right. So yeah, that one was how did it make you feel? So the first one, I shared my experience. Second one, I said it made me feel ashamed that we had gone through the 12 pack so quickly. And so the third question is, how did you respond to this feeling? So it's 7:34. Let's go to around 7:40 or so. All right. All right, I am gonna show you mine. So how did you respond to this feeling? Mine says, what is it about, there we go. What is it about seltzer? I decided to do some light research on Wikipedia. It says here that it was accidentally discovered by Joseph Priestley at a brewery in 1767. He described it as, quote, a peculiar satisfaction. And then here's this 1700s man, and he's holding a beverage, and he says, I'm tickled. Also, just FYI, I like wrote a draft of this before so that I could make sure that I could do it adequately enough for you. So like, again, there was some pre-planning with this. Like I didn't just happen to know that Wikipedia stuff off the top of my head, but just as a heads up. So we're gonna do it, like take a little bit less time for the last one. Let me just pull it up. Just wanna make sure that we have time for people to go through and share theirs. All right, so the last one is, what insights and takeaways or thoughts resulted? And it's 7:39. So let's do, if possible, around like 7:42 or 7:43. See how far we get. All right, I'll share with you mine. You can continue working. So the question was, what insights, takeaways, thoughts resulted? So I remember when I read that, I was like, I was delighted by it. So I said, it's here, it says, a peculiar satisfaction. That's the best description I've ever heard. And my husband says, I'll take whatever satisfaction I can get these days. The pandemic joke. But that's my comic. And there's so many different formats and ways you can play around with diary comics, but this is like a fun, I think it's a fun exercise to do. It can also give you the skeleton of something that you want to expand. So I would love to get some folks to share what they're working on. Again, like wherever you are with it is like totally cool. It's something you can continue to work on. So for if you'd like to share, just raise your hand, and the reliever will select some folks to share. So thank you. Hi, go ahead. What's your name?
My name is Zosie.
Hi, Zosie.
And so a few weeks ago, our neighbors took off the fence panels and replaced it with like plexiglass.
Mm-hmm.
So here's an image of me and my friend playing. So here is us saying hi to each other.
Okay.
And here I'm telling her that I love playing with her, but I miss playing with her in person.
Mm-hmm.
And here's me saying, well, I guess we can still play over the fence. Then here's me discovering that she had stuffed animals like me.
Oh, that's really great. That's such a relatable experience right now when we're, separated from the people we care about. That's a really great sequence. Thank you for sharing that. Hi, what's your name? Oh, I think you're muted.
Maybe.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Perfect.
Oh, okay, good. Hi. So I had to get I shattered a tooth a couple weeks ago,
okay.
And I had a temporary crown. So I had to get my permanent crown today.
Yeah.
And I was really anxious about it because the last time it went horribly, the removal part. And so I did learn about nitrous oxide, which was a lot of fun, and I did not know that previously. Highly recommend. So I was trying to keep myself calm by breathing deeply, which is a total fail if you don't have anything on your little tooth stump. Mm. So and then I'm still a little lost on the end. I think currently I have sometimes shallow is a good thing because they had me watching, one of those like insipid morning shows while I was sitting there, trying to not vomit on my tooth stump. Anyway, that's what I think. Thank you, by the way.
Oh, that's great. The dentist is often a harrowing experience, so that's great.
Right?
I hope you're feeling better. Thank you. Hi, what's your name? Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, nice. So, not sure if you're going to be able to actually see the thing, but this week I gave like sort of a talk similar to this one about my college research, and it was very harrowing because there are a lot of people watching. And so I had to take a whole day off to kind of recharge from the experience. So there's a little microphone here that I stole from the Zoom icon actually. And I had to learn how to give myself a little time off, which hasn't really been something common these days. Like I keep having to remind myself to actually rest between work. So yeah, that's always a big thing.
Yeah, rest is important. Thank you. And I like the visual shorthand you used with all of the eyes. Like I think that's super effective and a good use of your space. So great
thank you.
Hi, how are you? Hello? I'm not sure if you're muted. Might be. No worries.
Sorry.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. No, okay. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. The host had muted me, so I couldn't do that on my own. So hi, I'm Wagner. I'm from Brazil. I really like the idea of the exercise, and actually, I caught the Zoom session a little late, so I guess I misheard or misinterpreted the instructions. and I did all the 4 panels in the time you gave for the first one.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so I had to kind of rush,
Okay.
but I guess this is maybe, let me see if I can get some extra light there too. But the idea is basically, I've been having a rough week at work, and I just realized this week that I could actually leave my job and have something as like maybe start a new business. I'm an English teacher, by the way.
Mhm.
And then basically what I loved about the experience is trying to summarize all the questions you suggested in like each panel, kind of answering. Of course, it was very subtle. It was done very quickly. But
Yeah.
basically, like, guess I could leave my job. I never thought I would like think about it because I really like what I do.
Mhm.
But I felt good about feeling it, and it ends with me feeling good about having a plan B. You know.
That's great that you were able to work through that on your comic, and I also like the subtle like change in your expressions and your gestures in each panel.
Thank you for
So,
noticing that.
very well done. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for coming from Brazil. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Great. How are you? Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
You're in my comic.
Oh, sweet.
Okay. So yeah, I also came in late, so I was like, I don't know what experience it is. I'm gonna do this experience.
Okay.
So it says I took another comic workshop today. And the second panel is I felt so relaxed, fluid, and peaceful. Like it was kind of like being like on just chilled out.
Perfect.
And then this one has too many words in retrospect, but it says, so I started dreaming of getting a bottle of wine, taking a nap, cleaning my nest, and settling in for a relaxing weekend. So there's like an exhale and doing laundry and dance and wine. And it says, I'm so grateful, I'm learning to let go.
That's a really nice flow to it. I like how it ends. And also, like, I know you'd mentioned that there was like a lot of text in the third one, but I like how you kind of worked the little details around it. I think that was really effective. So thank you
Thanks.
for sharing.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good, how are you? So I didn't draw mine on a paper, but can I share screen?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Shoot.
Oops, it says disabled, or I also took a photo of it. And,
Okay, yeah, photo might be easier.
cool. So can you kind of see it?
Yes, you can see it.
So the first panel is literally me going, I have to think of an experience this week. I haven't left my house or seen anybody in a while. And then the second panel is just me like feeling flustered because I can't think of anything. And the third panel is just me blanking out. And then the fourth panel is me going, are my experiences only born out of my interaction with people? That's the end.
That's actually really great and super relatable right now. I think a lot of us get energized from being around other people, so it can be a challenge creatively sometimes. So
Yeah.
I think it's really good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Let's see.
Yeah, it always takes a second. Hi.
Hey.
This is mine. I guess I'll read it. Scott handing me a box. Ooh, my free photo book. I made an album of pictures taken during the pandemic. I'm trying to avoid feeling like this period of life is just waiting. It made me very happy. Now I can quit comics. I'll just make more of these. But here I am making a comic about it. The Believer, Whit Taylor on Zoom. I just want to say, like, your process is so unbelievably organized. It's making me have a lot of thoughts about how many things I don't think about when I'm making comics.
It's like one of the few organized things in my life, so I take that.
That's
Thanks,
awesome.
Tyler.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, hi, I'm John from Madison, Wisconsin, and this is not my comic costume. I just came from a bike ride. So let's see. This is sorry. So I'm hanging out with my dog a lot during quarantine, and been trying to teach her how to talk. And so I got really excited when Libby finally learned how to talk when she was yawning. So the way it made me feel, I was really, really proud and said, dang. And then she started licking my knee, which kind of grossed me out. And then of course she hacked on me with a lot of gusto. So then the default in quarantine is just to go back to work. And my insight was about old dogs and new tricks.
Nice. That's a great way to end it. I also really like how you draw yourself. It's like, it seems like you some thought into that before, but it works really nicely. It's really great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, how are you?
Hi everyone, how are you? Thanks for this workshop. Mine is a bit depressing maybe. I'm from Lebanon, so that's the Beirut explosion is on. So it says, on August 4th, I woke up to dozens of messages from family in Lebanon. A huge explosion in Beirut, the city I love, filled with people I love. The way I feel, oops, it's hard to see this. I feel absolutely overwhelmed, tired, confused, angry, worried, and far away. I wasn't sure what to do from California. With some encouragement, I decided to sell a print of a sketch from my aunt's balcony in Beirut, which is a lovely memory, to raise money for Lebanese Red Cross. And now I'm overwhelmed in a good way, and all that love has helped raise $4,000 for aid there.
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, congratulations. That's amazing. I'm glad that you were able to work that through in a comic, and I'm so sorry with what's going on. I hope that
Thank you.
This is just really beautiful. And I hope that you share it with more people. It's a really good perspective. Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Hi, that was pretty good, by the way. It was a really beautiful comic. So this is mine, which is on Wednesday, I took my dog to like the nice park that's like the next town over. There's a like huge pond and everything. And he like kept trying to go into the lake after these little turtles that live there. And so I freaked out because I was like, well, what if he eats one or something? And so I kept him very far from the water after that. And then this is just me wondering what would have happened if he had caught one. And like, I would have this life of this tiny little turtle on my conscience.
Yeah, that makes me very sad. That's really great. I love how you draw yourself too. And I like how you use the question marks at the end. I think that's like, kind of shows your like anxiety kind of that's hanging over after this situation. So thank you for sharing. Let's see. I'm not sure if we have anybody. Let's see, anyone else. It's getting to be close to 8, so perfect. Go ahead.
Yay. Hi. Mine is Super Slice of Life here.
Nice.
Mundane and small. Let me see if I can get more light on there.
Okay.
So I was commuting to work. Mine also doesn't have any words, but I was commuting to work, and here's me in the car, and I was behind a semi that I noticed was like flinging water. And I was like, oh, that's weird. So I have a confused face, and I'm looking closely at the water. And then here's kind of the sequence of my eyes slowly looking up, and I'm behind a refrigerator service truck that is like dumping water out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I think like that panel with the eyes is really great. It kind of shows your like your realization of what's going on. So that's great. And more slice of life, please. I think slice of life is great. So we're nearing the end. I just want to thank all of you for coming out and for participating. And I hope that you can just use this as an exercise that you can play around with if you want to expand your comics or make other ones. Thank you so much. And again, you can, if you finish your comics, tag The Believer, tag Black Mountain Institute, and you can tag me. I'd love to see what y'all like do when you finish up. And thanks again for having me to The Believer and Black Mountain Institute. Thank you. Have a nice weekend.